This is a podcast where real doctors discuss fake medical emergencies. That means that unless you caught parrot fever in the rafters of Radio City Music Hall, this podcast is not medical advice. If you need medical advice or medical care, please contact your doctor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackson Vane.
I'm Johnny Kolosinski. You might remember me from such podcasts as Spocky Horror Picture Show, a retelling of Star Trek starring Tim Curry as our favorite Vulcan.
I'd watch that.
This is Hi Everybody, a Bad Medicine podcast. Every week we talk about what Hollywood gets right and wrong about medicine and how the body works. You can find this podcast online at Hi Everybody MD on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at www.hieverybodymd.com.
If you want to call us, talk to us, give us suggestions, whatever, call us at 530-DOCTORB. That is 530-DOCTORB. The B stands for bumblin, as in two bumblin thieves. Because it's that time of the year again.
Yes, happy ho-ho-ho-sember.
Wait, I'm sorry. That's what we're calling it?
Yep. That's what we're calling it.
I love it.
I've embraced it. Where we're talking Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And with us once again are Dr. Greg Winter.
Hi, everybody. I decided not to Dr. Nick at this time.
You kind of did.
I know. It's hard to not.
And Dr. Courtney Nicholas.
Hi, everybody.
Jackson, I know why we are discussing Home Alone 2, but why are we discussing Home Alone 2?
Because it's Christmas and we did Home Alone last year. That's my answer. I have no witty comment for it other than I felt like it's time. And better do Home Alone 2 than all the other extra Home Alones.
And Home Alone 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw the next coming up part and it did not look good.
I figured after Home Alone 1, you guys wouldn't have had me back.
I think after Home Alone 1, I felt like none of us would have been back. That one
We
was
all
a
got
mess.
fired from our own show.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably what happened. But Johnny, you want to set up this movie?
Home Alone 2 is the story of two bumblin thieves who escape from prison, and then they go to New York. And then there's this kid in New York who they knew from Chicago, and stuff gets weird.
I believe it's pronounced two bumblin thieves.
There we go.
My friends are going to be really mad that I gave that joke away to you guys.
You gave it away to everybody.
It's our standard fake voice that we use, or at least for me, because I can't do any of the other ones.
This is another film we discussed in Home Alone 1, Lost in My House, that everything that we remember from Home Alone 1 took place in the last 14 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
In this case, everything that all of the shenanigans, all of the damage that gets done to Harry and Marv happens between a minute 81 of the film and minute 105. So about 24 minutes. But I found rewatching this, and I don't know if you feel the same way, that I didn't remember any of the injuries from this movie, and all I remembered was Tim Curry.
I actually was thinking, I mean, I know that I've seen the sort of montage of injury scenes, but I don't think I ever sat through this whole movie as a movie.
This much in the beginning.
Oh, I mean, I realize that, but I don't think I ever actually did. I think at some point I just watched the ending of it on VHS.
I remember the Talk Boy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
But I remember the Talk Boy from the commercial. I don't remember it from the movie.
Yeah.
I had a talk boy.
You had a Talk Boy?
I had a talk boy. It was my first foray into podcasting.
Did you slow it down or speed it up?
I slowed it down.
How many hotel rooms did you book?
Dozens.
I remember very vividly that Tiger commercial where it's like, "Hi kids, we're home early," and the two teenagers are making out on the couch, and it's like, this is a creepy commercial. You'll see. It's on. You'll find
the
it.
memories just flooded back right when you said it too. I'm like, oh
Stop
god,
drooling on me.
oh my god. I forgot.
That's right. It's a good thing. This movie should have been Home Alone 2. It's a good thing Kevin recorded that. It's like so many things that are so inconsequential that are the perfect soundbite to play. I wish I had that kind of luck.
Home Alone 2, the Nixon tapes.
Home Aloner.
Home Alone with a Vengeance?
That's the third one.
Home Alone or Die Hard? Wait, no, that's Live Free or Die Hard. It doesn't work.
Live Free
Home
or
Alone
Home
is
Alone.
basically
That's
just
the
Die Hard,
one.
though.
There you go.
Live Free or Home Alone.
It is basically Die Hard. I was thinking in the middle of this, is Kevin McAllister just a prequel to MacGyver?
I love how it's just dead
Clearly
silence
not.
after that.
Clearly not.
Yeah, we had to
McClane?
give that its
Yes.
time.
Everyone had to
John
process.
McClane. And
No,
not
I'm not. It's not. Look, I love Die Hard. Very different movie. Kevin McAllister is making something out of nothing. Like he is setting up a mousetrap of a house maze, and
not just like Mousetrap to catch mice. Mousetrap.
I mean Mousetrap the board game. Yes, of course.
Rube Goldberg.
Yes,
So
exactly.
we
I mean,
just
it
need
is
to
the
get
same.
the kid a
like,
paperclip
and
and chewing gum. And
If they get hit in the face here, then that means they're going to fall down the stairs, and then I get a piece of toast.
Can we start from the beginning with this whole movie, though?
Yeah, I want to start actually from the very beginning,
Okay.
like the opening credits. The first thing I noticed was that this was so early in Rob Schneider's career that Kieran Culkin got credited before him.
Oh,
He plays a good schmarmy dick.
yeah. You look at Rob Schneider and you want to punch him in the face, and that's what they want you to do. It's so it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
he's
just
doing it.
typecasting.
I mean, I still kind of want to now. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rob Schneider. I mean,
I'm sure he's a lovely guy. Maybe.
vaccinate. He's in it.
What? Did you say he's anti-vax?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he's a lovely guy.
Just you don't have to get medical advice from famous people.
Yeah.
In fact, that's
Right.
probably not where you should get it. Don't get
Yeah.
that type of advice from celebrities, and don't get celebrity advice from me.
Yeah,
Simple as
and
that.
don't get medical advice from this show because we told you that at the beginning of the show.
That is
That's a
the
good
first
point.
thing you hear from us. This is also one of those houses I feel like would get a lot of CPS calls. You lost a child. You left a child home alone to fend for himself. Clearly, there's a history of violence in that house because during the Christmas program, he punches his brother, which causes a domino effect, and every single kid
Yeah.
falls. All those kids have weak knees. They all tumble down.
Is there a technical term for that in pediatrics?
Weak knees.
But smaller.
But weenies.
My first medical note on this movie was, why doesn't Kevin have a therapist?
Because he's talking to the camera most of the time. He might have a mental disorder.
The fourth wall is the therapist.
Who needs a therapist when you got a talk boy?
So watching or like seeing it this time was a sort of very different experience where it's like Kevin's not a cool kid. He's just kind of a jerk who's mouthing off to his parents all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I get why he got left at home because he's a jerk. He's like a piece of shit.
I actually wrote the first hour is just a misbehaving child and a mouthy one at it too.
The first 75 minutes.
Sorry, the first 75 minutes were just mouthy like a really mouthy child. Like he had to learn that from somebody.
Unless he's talking to an endearing older person.
With pigeons.
With pigeons or with a toy store.
Yeah.
That's true. He does have a lot of respect for his very elders, but not for his parents. Although when you see how his parents talk to the police, you kind of see where he gets it from.
Yeah. My note was how bad of a mom Catherine O'Hara is.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Her
Why?
character.
Why?
Her character. So after the punching Buzz incident, her reaction is, we had a problem last year.
Yeah. The problem was you left me at home, Mom.
It's like, we didn't have a problem. You left your 9-year-old.
Right. Exactly.
How old was he in this one? 10?
10.
I mean, I was actually impressed because it's essentially the same plot. Of course, that's a sequel for you. But like they wrote a reasonable reason for him to somehow get separated from his family for a second year in a row. Like
Yeah.
I was totally on board for all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense pre 9/11.
Absolutely.
Post 9/11, probably not so much. But the idea of him getting on the wrong plane is feasible, I suppose.
Everybody's just being a little bit too lazy, but also in reasonable ways. Like, everything's fine. Get on the
Yeah.
plane.
So my uncle got on the wrong plane once. Tried to go to Hawaii and got up on the plane in his Hawaiian shirt, and he looked around, and after takeoff he noticed that everyone on the plane were wearing suits and overcoats. And my uncle did not end up in Hawaii. He ended up in Chicago in the middle of winter.
I was gonna
So
say Kauai.
pre 9/11, it definitely was possible to end up on the wrong plane.
Did they not check his ticket?
I don't know what happened.
I mean, it's just one of those, like, you know,
part of the story that I know is that he ended up in Chicago.
I'm sure the people taking tickets aren't expecting someone to not have the right ticket, and you know, you're not expecting to get on the wrong plane.
And they handled it
and
very
they don't
well.
have the scanners.
Exactly, where all of the boarding passes just fell into a pile, and you need to make your time. And
Right, I can believe it.
Me too.
Now, did he, when he showed up in Chicago, end up booking a suite at the nicest hotel in town with your grandpa's credit card?
Yes, with the credit card. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think like what the nicest hotel is
In Chicago?
Yeah, I can't.
That's sort of the other thing. Like, this movie doesn't work unless Kevin steals money from his parents, which is not like, there was no reason for him to do that. He's just a jerk. He's just a bad kid.
No, but if you counter a bad deed with a good deed, it all goes away. And he donated
The ends
money.
do not justify the means, Jackson.
No, that's what homeless pigeon lady said.
Okay, not a philosophy podcast, but I really want someone to do a podcast on Home Alone 2 and utilitarianism.
All right, I'm down. Yeah. I'll do it.
But how did he book a room? Like he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, yeah, he's definitely stole money from his parents.
But they explained that too. He had the bag with him because he was looking for credit for a battery.
No, there was a very clear, he just stole money from, look, this has nothing to do with medicine. Don't steal money from people. So
we are giving advice.
We were, fair enough. Don't steal money from people. I will stand behind that. I'm okay with
That's a bold statement.
But, you know, you were saying that kind of none of the Home Alone 1 stuff happens until way later in the movie. Although none of the Home Alone 1 stuff happens until way later in Home Alone 1 also.
Right.
But in the beginning of this, there's two things that do happen. Is Kevin has this really weird push of Buzz, which I'm going to talk about later because there's a lot of face punching in this movie. And I think the other example is a little bit better. And the other thing that happens is the pianist falls off of the stage. And she is a lady of a certain age. And it is entirely possible she's on, you know, aspirin for heart disease or something like that. She falls backwards off the stage, falls about 3 or 4 feet and lands directly on her head. There's a good chance she's dead.
After getting smacked in the head with that big plywood tree.
The tree doesn't matter. It's falling backwards onto the back of your head from a stage. That could kill you.
I would agree. Especially if she had if she was on blood thinners for sure. Like that's the kind of patient that would end up through the donut of truth right away.
That's the person that I feel fine and then they don't wake up later.
Yeah.
The donut of truth being an MRI?
CT.
Donut of truth.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
The donut of truth, the answer donut.
I thought the donut of truth is the MRI. I thought that's the...
No, that's the tunnel of truth.
Oh. I'm so glad I asked a follow-up question.
The MRI is a longer tunnel and it's very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Now that you said it, I understand.
Yeah. That's the tunnel.
So it's like a crawler of truth. And you're the cream filling.
Yes. I was going to say you're the pig in the blanket. That also works too.
Yeah. You have to kind of tuck kids in before they go to the MRI.
Mm-hmm. You really burrito them. You burrito wrap them real good. The other thing we'll do sometimes too is we call it the Superman cape. We slide their arms into a pillowcase and then tell them to lie down. So that when they lie down, they can't move their arms because their own body weight is preventing their arms from slipping out of the pillowcase. So they're stuck like that. Then we wrap them in a blanket to really make sure they're really stuck. And usually
I know why you can never find pillows at the hospital.
You can't find pillows. Pillowcases, however, plentiful.
All the pillowcases are in the tunnel of truth.
Yeah. And then we wrap them up in that. And the first thing they immediately say after we wrap them up is, we have to go to the bathroom. And I say, you're bluffing. And then...
Because you're never getting them back in that pillowcase. All right, but put your arms back in the pillowcase and lay down.
1 out of every 5 times, they're not bluffing. And they will go. Then you do have to unwrap them and then get them new pants because they went in their pants.
It's all right. Pants are free at the hospital.
It's really hard to find pants.
I like pillowcases.
And pillowcases, yes, easy to find. Pillows, super hard to find.
So pianist lady.
I'm sorry.
I laugh in my head every time you guys say that.
So mature.
The 64-year-old piano player. Yeah. So the piano player is probably in trouble, you're saying, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, she's dead. Because it's also, it's not that, I mean, it's not the most significant fall, but she like fell, whipped back, and hit her head. So
I will say
she's much more injured than the hilarity of the scene
There was a lot of head injuries in this movie.
There's
But
a
you're
lot
right.
of
The
head
back of
trauma.
the skull is the weakest part, right? The front is the strongest.
The front is pretty strong. The back has a lot of stuff that can is kind of important, like your cerebellum's back there and whatnot too. But
basilar skull fracture.
basilar skull fracture
It's all
is
coming back to me.
anywhere down, on the face, like the base of the skull, anywhere bad, because that's where
Get
your
the
brainstem
raccoon
is.
eyes.
Yep.
Raccoon eyes, battle sign, all that stuff.
I'm remembering. We don't do a lot of
You
this
guys
in
should get a real
neonatology.
ER doctor to comment on stuff.
How dare you? I will say we did have one patient. It was like a 75-year-old grandfather who was visiting his grandson pre-COVID times. Was on blood thinners. Was sleeping in the same bed as the grandson. Rolled off, landed on the back of his head. He was lucid, but then as we were getting him packaged up to go to the adult facility, he started getting tired and drowsy.
There was so one of the things that I tell my friends' dads, like anyone that's still trying to sort of be the tough man on the block and putting up their Christmas lights and stuff, no, you're too old to do this. You have made enough money in your life to hire someone to put up Christmas lights, or just don't put up Christmas lights. But if you fall off a ladder, that's the end for you. At the very least, you have a horrible hip fracture or arm fracture, but most of the time you just die from a whip head injury into the concrete.
There's a lot of whip head. This movie. But yeah.
Do people respond to "you're too old for this"? Because I've noticed
I don't.
that they
I
don't.
I don't say that. I don't say that. What I usually say is,
You're
you know
too
what?
old
You're
and decrepit?
No, I say, you're at a time in your life where you can pay other people to do this kind of work for you, and if you fell down, you would have a more significant injury than you think.
My stepdad actually, I think he would have been in his 40s, maybe early 50s. He fell off the ladder, putting up the Christmas lights, broke his clavicle and multiple ribs.
I mean,
And that's as a relatively young guy.
I am a doctor. I sometimes know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that old lady is.
I'm a doctor, and I sometimes fall off the ladders.
Right, Courtney, you're getting to that age too.
You're too old for that.
I don't get on my ladder either. I have one. It's nice. I often want to use it.
I borrowed it. I climbed up on my roof. It was great. I didn't fall.
So, Greg, you said you also wanted to talk about Buzz's getting punched.
Oh yeah. That'll come up later. I mean, it's Kevin is throwing a punch at Buzz, right? And then the scene cuts, and it's Hollywood, so it doesn't matter.
Push.
And so then his punch really changes, and so it's not really a good punch. And there's a scene later in the movie, which probably I should just talk about now because I'm already talking about it. But when Marv comes up behind that lady he initially met in Central Park, he comes up to her, or when Kevin grabs her behind because he's trying to get away from the two bumbling thieves.
Oh, he's going for that sweet can.
That's the first time I've said that without using that accent. It felt weird.
You had a little bit of the accent, though. I heard it.
So when Kevin's going to grab her behind, she turns around and she hits Marv. And so then there's like the Hollywood cheat where you show it from the side, and she like punches him across the face because he's not really hitting him, obviously. But she hits him basically with the outside of her hand, which that's a pretty standard way to fracture your hand. So you get what's called a boxer's fracture. And you fracture the last... I'm so bad at anatomy. The last metacarpal?
Correct.
Okay. I did not do good in anatomy.
I was waiting for you to say it. I'm like,
so yeah, the things that actually make up your fingers are the
phalanges.
Ooh, that one I was gonna mess up for sure. But the ones that are actually in like the palmy part of your hand are called metacarpals. And so that last one, the one that makes up your pinky, if you hit somebody and your fist isn't quite locked in straight with your wrist, or you just hit them with part of your hand, it's really easy to fracture that. And she would have 100% fractured hers.
Yeah, we see that a lot in the ER. Usually it's from punching walls. And that's why we always tell patients, if you fight a wall, you will lose.
It's true. Or if you keep your hand straight, then you won't lose as badly.
Aren't you supposed to like tuck your thumb into?
You do not tuck
You
your thumb
never
inside.
tuck your
Don't
thumb. That's how
tuck
you
your
break your
thumb
Never
thumb.
tuck your thumb into your
How do
fist.
you hold it then?
Like this?
Like
Like your thumb on the
this is a great medium to explain this by going, oh, hold your fist like this.
Guys, there's other ways to solve your problems instead of punching people. But don't put your thumb on the inside of your fist if you're going to do anything with it. That's how you break your
exhausted
thumb.
those options.
So yeah, your fourth and your fifth metacarpals are the ones most likely to break with any kind of boxer's fracture.
Yeah, that's called a boxer's fracture.
So yeah, she would have broke that. And who else got punched? She punched twice. Right?
I thought she slapped in the
She
first
slapped
time.
and
first, punch twice, punch the second time.
Yes. And the other thing that's always that Hollywood trope is the minute you get knocked out, which I think Marv was pretty stunned, they just get up and they keep going again. And that was the thing we kind of mentioned in, was it Bond? I think it was Bond. Long ago. Where they just get up and they kind of carry on with their day. But really, you're going to be real fuzzy and real, like, just foggy all day long after getting
Yeah,
that's the concussion part of getting hit in the head is your brain is swelling up a little bit. It's not doing what it normally does, or at least it's not doing it very efficiently, and so you're confused and fuzzy, and that's why people need to keep an eye on you.
And they already were kind of going to be fuzzy because earlier in that scene, that was the pearl necklace scene too.
Yeah, that was the first injury was they both landed flat on their back because Kevin dropped a bunch of cut pearl necklaces, fake pearl necklaces that he bought on the street.
I mean, the floor was already icy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm from Chicago, and you don't need to drop pearls on the ground to make people fall. There's plenty of ice.
The black ice will get you.
It's not as pretty from a Hollywood standpoint.
It's true. It really lets you see what's happening, and Kevin is the one controlling it. So
People from California are like, "What happened?"
right, exactly. That's probably what it is. People from anywhere that doesn't have snow and ice is just like, why did he fall down?
I don't get it.
Kevin's the only one who actually takes a fall just because of ice, and not
You're right.
ice that's a prop or that is planned.
That
in
was
advance,
white ice.
not premeditated ice.
And he's from the suburbs of Chicago in this movie, so he would have known. He's grown up with it.
So the piano player was Kevin's first kill
Yes.
in this film.
Yes.
I believe so. And because they were on that stage to begin with, and it looked like, although like the kids were just kind of falling down, it also feels like part of that little makeshift stage collapsed. He might have gotten a couple in that just overall collapse. But really that lady definitely got hurt.
I think just seeing that reminds me of the funniest injuries I'll get during Christmas play season is we'll get a lot of kids that pass out a lot too during this time of year.
Because they lock their knees.
Because they all lock their knees and then they pass out and take out other kids with them too.
On the risers.
On the risers,
wow.
yeah. So they'll like stand up, sing, haven't like moved around or bounced around. Because like, they tell you stand up straight, don't bounce around, look like you're singing, paying attention. And they lock their knees and they all pass out.
Why does locking your knees mean anything? I don't know anything
so
about
the
this.
reason why you pass out is you're not getting blood back. So you have little valves in your veins. So when you move your legs, you're pumping the blood up the veins. So you're returning blood back into your heart.
Oh.
So if you're not bouncing up and down and you lock your knees, you're not returning blood back into your heart, or at least into the vena cava to get back to your heart. So that's the reason why people pass out.
My dad was military, and this used to happen in training all the time too. They'd have to teach the recruits to bend your knees.
Don't just
Also
stand
happened
locked.
at band camp a lot.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But we get so many silly injuries during Christmas play season, and they usually come at night, very well dressed.
I love that there is something called Christmas play season.
It happens.
We'd be
and
in
it's-
it now, except
Yeah, there's no Christmas play, and if they
Virtual Christmas play season.
yeah, but they're gonna be sitting down or standing somewhere, and if they pass out, it's just they're only gonna take down what, the Christmas tree. They're not gonna take down anybody else.
They only fall into their computer. It's fine.
yeah, Christmas Zoom play season. It's the same well dressed parents, but only from the top up and pajama pants under the jacket.
Yeah, pretty much. But that is a very common thing we'll see around this time of year, except not this year.
Shortly after, is there anything else we want to talk about
From the first
nuts?
3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
No.
I mean,
Buzz is a psychopath.
so little happens for such a long time in this
Yeah.
movie.
We all agree that the McAllister family is the Irish mob, correct?
What?
No, I do
I
not
mean-
agree
let's
with that.
discuss
Dad's
that.
rolling in cash. He's carrying
Oh.
at least 10 grand in an envelope.
He did have a lot of money for no
They
real
explain
reason.
that. Although you used to have to take cash on trips.
Not to
but-
Florida.
Exactly.
Like, Florida still has US dollars.
Credit cards.
Yeah. Unless you need like itchy and scratchy dollars, you're fine.
Yeah,
I
or
definitely
traveler's checks.
I remember my dad bringing traveler's checks when we
My
went.
dad would always bring traveler's
Yeah.
checks.
American Express.
I feel like people wouldn't even take those anymore. They'd be like,
No.
that's play money.
Do they even exist anymore?
I'm sure they do. I don't know.
I've never had to get a
I will
check.
say with confidence, I'm sure they do.
I just wrote a check for the first time in 2 years today. So
But yeah, like he had a lot of money
Yeah, his brother owns a brownstone in New York
that's really dilapidated.
because they were doing
Under
renovations.
Wait, was
Probably
that his
because-
brother's? Was that his
Yeah.
uncle's house?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his uncle's house.
I missed that. But that is, of course, the house that particular guy would own. He was...
No, not Uncle Frank.
Oh, okay.
No.
Not the one with the pea pants kid?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, Uncle Frank is problematic.
He is.
Yes. What did he say? Oh, if Kevin sees his uncle naked, he would never be able to look at a real man again or something like that.
I missed that part.
It was something real, like just creepy uncle.
Again, Kevin needs a therapist.
Yeah, Kevin does need a therapist.
Kevin needs to be removed from this home is what really needs to happen.
That's, Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
He has been removed from the home. That's the premise of 3 movies.
2 movies. They had to get a new kid because he got removed finally at the end of the second movie. And they had to use a new kid for the third one. That is
my new headcanon.
I mean, it makes sense. The characters aren't allowed to have children anymore.
It's okay. They have enough.
Yeah, they do.
They have spares.
Oh, going back to New York. After he was running away from the sticky bandits and then got into the hotel after they were trying to all tackle him and whatnot, did you notice he was sliding on carpet?
I did not.
So he slid on the marble floor and then directly into the elevator, and the elevator is fully carpeted, and he slid all the way into the elevator.
He's gonna have some hot foot. I know that.
No, it's
not hot foot. It's hot tum tum. Because his belly's gonna have
he's gonna fall face first. As someone who grew up in a house that had some hardwood floors, we did some sock sliding, and you learn pretty fast that you can't transition from the hardwood to the carpet. You can transition from the tile to the to the hardwood, but there is no carpet transition.
Did you do risky business?
No, we were not really a TV household. Our parents took the cord for the television, so we couldn't use it when they were gone, which only created more mischief.
Yeah, I can see that.
I hear about parents when they punish their kids, they take away the chargers for their devices instead of taking away the actual devices. So you just watch the fear in the child's eyes.
That's like a certain type of mental torture, right?
You gotta get the cables out, because then you can just get a battery pack and then they're fine. Or charge it into a laptop.
Or just don't buy your kids stuff like that. That's the other thing you could do.
I mean, you're not supposed to give any kid under the age of 13 access to social media. That is the AAP recommendations. Also, that's why when you sign up for an account on Gmail or whatever, it says, are you at least 13 years old? That's part of it.
I don't think we should give anyone access to social media. Like, any kid under the age of 113.
If you're 113, go and say whatever you want. You've earned it.
Yeah.
How about when you get to the point that you're too old to climb a ladder? Then you're ready for social media.
Nope.
I'm as someone who took themselves off of social media a couple of years ago, I'm making no comment.
That's like prime age for resharing videos of stupid medical stuff. That is prime age.
It's post prime age for Goop.
Yes.
But
I don't want to even touch Goop right now. Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's health.
I know what Goop is. I have no comment.
I don't want to deal with that one right now.
Before we get into the actual, part of the movie that we're here to talk about, a lot of people say that Donald Trump is the only cast member of Home Alone 2 to ever be impeached by Congress. And that's true. But he's actually the only cast member of any John Hughes directed or produced film to ever be impeached by Congress. And I think that's impressive.
You got to take your small victories wherever you can get them.
So speaking of small victories, small tubes, what a transition.
That was good.
Getting into the 91st minute of the film.
Yeah, when he's like setting up the house. Actually, I think he's going to set up the house. He climbs into the tube. And in my house, there was this old, it was like a shaftway between the first floor and the second floor in the closet. And you had to kind of shimmy up the wall. And it really brought me back home.
Like for laundry?
No, it was just like a weird secret passageway that was it. I have no idea why it was there.
How many dead animals did you find?
No dead animals.
I assume you also had stairs.
We did also have stairs, yes. But
it
was like
but Greg was not allowed to use those
Why
stairs.
did you use the stairs?
No TV, no media, no stairs.
Shimmy up the shaft.
I mean, I was allowed to watch TV. My dad listens to this, and then I would have to hear that.
I'll cut that bit.
No, it's okay.
That's standard.
Oh no, I mean just the dad say the part where you were saying that you were allowed to watch TV.
Great.
So shimmying up that tube, probably feasible.
That tube is not that stable.
It's really not that. It's not that sturdy. You need to be able to push out hard enough to support your body weight. The thing is, Kevin's really teeny, so maybe I don't know. I've never been in
one of those slides at like McDonald's Play Place,
right?
It's not a rigid plastic tube, but maybe there was like framework or something in it.
It had a little. It's all right. It's not a physics podcast. It just really brought me back home for a second because my home had a bunch of tubes.
We used to do that in doorways, like shimmy up the doorway.
Yeah, it was like the similar sort of
to a
thing,
second
except
floor.
for it was in a closet. Like I have no idea. I have no idea why there was a hole there.
Wait, before we go through all the traps and stuff, there was one thing that kind of bothered me was just the general portrayal of the homeless people and their mental health and whatnot. Because like when he was walking through Central Park at night, like you had one guy who was really aggressive. You had the taxi driver with the one good eye.
The taxi driver was also bleeding from a head wound.
Yeah.
That guy should not have been driving.
Sorry, Johnny. You're not going to be a taxi driver. It's not going to happen. But like they had people like hallucinating kind of. Mm-hmm. And then my favorite quote was, they had a lot of aggressive prostitutes. I mean, I'm sorry, aggressive sex workers.
Yes.
I mean, the problem I had with all of it was just, it was a very stereotypical portrayal of all like homeless people being this kind of destitute, aggressive, hallucinating people. And that's not always the case, but the way they kind of sold it was just very over the top.
And I think part of it is you look at it like this is a movie told from Kevin's perspective, and that's probably how it all would seem to him. But like, there's plenty of normal, nice homeless people too. Yeah. They're just people that don't have homes.
I mean, he does meet a nice homeless person with a pigeon lady.
It's true, but she does kind of have a home somehow.
Right.
She does.
Yeah,
she
kind of lives in Radio City Music Hall.
That's true.
Yeah, I actually looked up diseases you can get where you live around that many pigeons, and there's a lot of them.
I thought you were going to say you looked up diseases you could get in Radio City.
Oh, there is a lot of them.
So there's actually a lot of overlap between the two. Depends what you do with those pigeons, but there is quite a bit of overlap. The E. coli, salmonella, parrot fever. I know it's with pigeons, but you can actually get parrot fever from pigeons.
Is that what Jimmy Buffett fans have?
But I feel like that's the last place you want a young kid to hang out, is in the middle of a pigeon coop, essentially, and getting all those diseases.
So if Kevin wasn't removed from his family, he died of parrot fever.
Yes. He went to one too many Jimmy Buffett concerts at Radio City Music Hall and died of parrot fever.
Now he's wasted away in Margaritaville in the sky.
No, he wasted away in Margaritaville and ended up on a cheeseburger in paradise.
I mean,
well done.
Who knew how many references to Jimmy Buffett you both could pull out randomly?
That's all
I got. Who knew how
idea.
much Jimmy Buffett sung about death?
Touche.
So we're getting into the medical bits because Duncan's, the toy store, shuts. They don't lock their doors till midnight on Christmas Eve for some reason.
No, because they sell $26 soap.
And after Kevin has, in the 20 minutes between when he decides to save the toy store and when he actually goes to save the toy store, he draws up a very, in-depth map of his plans and then makes the mousetrap house. And then he breaks the window at the toy store and the two bumblin thieves come running after him, where we see their third injury that they receive of the film, which is when Harry jumps out, lands on the low end of Kevin's makeshift teeter-totter, and then Marv jumps off and launches Harry, 20 feet into the air?
We're about to make this a physics podcast.
After this happened, we stopped it and rewound it a couple of times. Because it's like, first of all right, so you land in this precarious position. You can step off. You're on the sidewalk. There's no reason to stay right there. And then when Marv jumps out, it's not like he took a huge running leap. He just kind of jumps out of the way. Like, you're not going to go further than that.
Marv is real dense.
That's what
He's real tall.
He's made of lead.
A lot of the traps in this movie, unlike the first one, only work if Harry and Marv do exactly what
Right.
Kevin needs
Yeah.
them to do. And
Exactly.
I think the reason for that is that Harry and Marv sustained so many traumatic head injuries
Yeah.
in Home Alone 1.
Putty in your hand.
I mean, it's easy to outthink people who have had multiple concussions.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin even says,
16 minutes.
"Hey, why don't you guys take the stairs?" And they go, "Yeah, okay."
Yes, let's do this.
Like, what? This guy is hitting you in the head over and over. Don't listen to him.
He has their best interests always.
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of the head trauma really starts. Where Kevin is throwing a brick down from this. I think he's on the second story. It's a tall
Ceiling.
two-story.
Yeah, he's on the roof.
It's
It's on the
a
roof.
3-story
Yeah,
at
It's
least.
a 3-story and he's on the roof. Wait,
Yeah.
going back before that though, how hard did he have to land, Harry, to land on
To
the
Hulk
car?
out the car.
Yeah, he hulked out the car.
Okay, so I'm sitting over here thinking, okay, how can we fix this? All you had to do was move the fulcrum over towards Harry, have Merv jump further down, and he can go as high as you want.
Yeah, but it's not a physics movie.
It's,
so-
it's going to be now.
We fully crossed into like Wile E. Coyote territory with
Yeah.
this movie.
And I said that wrong. You have to move the fulcrum towards Merv, and then Harry flies.
Yes. You want him to land on the you want
He
more
needs to-
arm to launch
Exactly.
him up to have more.
You said it right the
Yeah,
first
anyway.
time. You mixed up your guys.
Yeah,
Which
Harry's
one's
the
wait,
short
which
one.
one's which?
Harry's Joe Pesci.
Yeah. So you want to move the fulcrum towards Merv, so when he jumps on it, Harry
Yeah,
goes flying.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and make the
Oh yeah.
See, I fixed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You want us to draw it
He
out?
still needs to be denser than a normal human is the main thing.
And also Harry has to be super dense too to cause that much damage to the car.
Yeah, if you ever
so
done that,
in their 1 year in prison, they did a lot of working out, which is why they can do things like climb ropes unassisted.
Not just climb a rope,
yeah.
a kerosene rope.
He's got quarters
A
in his
kerosene-
pocket from stealing from Santa.
there it is.
Well, I just figured that they were in one of those prisons that was also part of the Weapon X project, and their bones are adamantium
But if both of their bones are adamantium, then we're at the same problem again. It's the same
Maybe the
because
density.
they're equally dense.
They're equally dense, yes. Only one of them had to go through Project X to get all that stuff.
The other one's New School Wolverine, where his claws are made out of bone, which makes no sense.
And then he got adamantium injected into him. Yes.
No, Courtney, you don't know any
You
of
guys
this.
have lost it. I know we're talking about Wolverine. That's about the extent of
Good
it.
enough. I'll take it.
Okay, so then we're talking about him throwing the bricks off the roof.
Yeah.
Fantastic aim, by the way.
Yeah. Actually, Kevin has great aim.
Hmm.
And I'm surprised that all Marv got away with were just little abrasions.
Not like bruises.
It was like nothing, like small little linear findings.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
talked about it before. Your scalp is kind of tight
Vascular.
if it gets like
Pinched.
pulled or damaged or pinched, it's gonna open up
Yeah.
and it's gonna bleed a lot. And he barely has any. Man, getting hit with a brick in the head would hurt so
Yeah.
much.
I mean, you're
Especially
right.
from that height.
Ugh.
It's really vascular, and so when you get cut in the head, you bleed like nothing else.
Also, those bricks are real sturdy because the minute they hit his head, they didn't like crack or break or anything like that too. Because you would think it would give way a little bit.
I mean, that's some
I
either
think
either
my
by
head's
hitting his head
probably
or the
softer than bricks.
concrete. It's
Yeah.
also just man, that would hurt so much.
I mean, how many
It
crusties did he
did.
see? 4?
I will say he has really good comedic movement timing to be hit with those bricks at every perfect, like right as he's staring directly into the brick, every single
Yeah.
time.
And you just see it coming too.
Yeah.
Like
And it's the same complaint. There's not enough blood.
Yep.
Like, I think the last one nailed him right in the nose, and he should have just been bleeding out of his nose.
I like
He's-
that our complaint for a child's movie is there's not enough blood.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus. Where's the gore?
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of the like a lot of times when people get injured, it takes a minute for the how horrible that injury to show up is. Like if you break your nose, somebody hits you in the face or something. At first, there's nothing. Then lots of blood. Then lots of swelling. Then like an hour later, both of your eyes are black and you have bruising everywhere. And it like never gets to that second stage of how bad these injuries can get. In fact, like, everyone improves a little bit from scene to scene.
The makeup kind of runs off
Yeah.
a little bit.
You've talked on the show before about when someone has a really bad head injury, like a weird limb thing that happens. Or am I making that up right now?
Are you thinking about corticate and decerebrate positioning?
You know?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm speaking of.
Wow.
I like that you
I
brought
am
that
very
up.
impressed
Yeah.
that you dug that one out.
Guys, I'm a doctor.
Yes. I feel like Marv kind of did that after the first.
Where he kind of put his hands to his chest a little bit and was like,
Yeah,
"Come
like he
here."
brought him in just a little bit and then then flumped him back out.
It's called posturing, and it's like if your brain gets injured enough, or you remove part of your hindbrain from the forebrain, and I'm only saying that because I can't remember what any of the structures are called.
You can localize the injury based on which way you're posturing.
You can, but here's the main thing. If you're posturing, it's real bad.
You did.
It's not, it means you have a significant brain injury.
And it's not going to get better, and you're not going to get up and go beat up the child.
You're definitely not going to get up and go beat up a child.
What if
You're going to probably get up and
stumble?
throw up a lot.
Yeah, there's not enough vomit.
No, I think there's just enough vomit.
0?
Yes, exactly.
If you get a big enough head injury, there's, memory loss, nausea, vomiting. You can have spinal injuries. There's so many things that could happen that there's no consequence to injury in this film. And I mean, that's why it's fun. But then I was also thinking, as things have changed and we know more about brain injuries, and we've seen some of the sort of horrible long-term effects that can happen from people who have had injuries like that. Like, could you make a movie like this today? Like, is it as funny to watch people just get hit in the head for 25 minutes?
Yeah.
Somebody had to say it.
I mean, I don't.
No, you're right, though. You're right.
And it's different because like head injury stuff was not as funny to me. Getting hit in the crotch was still funny to me.
Which is the immediate next scene.
Which is
the staple gun.
Yeah. Kevin's kill count at this point, is it 2, or is Harry dead from hitting the car?
He's not dead from hitting. I've been hit by a car before. He's fine.
Wait, hold on.
Wait. Yeah.
Hold on.
I think we need this story.
Rewind.
It's not a great story. I was riding my bike. I got hit by a car. It wasn't great, but I was okay. The car was damaged.
Was that when you got your AC?
No. That was recently.
I got hit by a car once too, actually, while I was on a bike. But I was riding the bike extremely slowly across the street, and the car stopped at the stop sign, but just rolled over the line to the point that in very slow motion, it knocked me off my bike.
Did you go,
And
no?
It did. I was in college, and that was my very first day riding my new bike to school, and I went home and I never did it again.
I have not been hit by a car. I feel so left out right now.
Next injury we see is going to be a much less deadly one, and one that I don't think any of us are going to aspire towards. And that's getting hit by a staple gun in the butt, the groin, and the face.
I think when this first happened, the first thing after the staple gun went off because Marv was trying to pull a doorknob all the way through, and that's what fired the staple gun. And it fired, and the first thing I think Greg said was, "Where did that go?
Yeah.
Did it go right up the..."
It went right in the butthole because that's the funniest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not as funny.
It's true. And then I think we mentioned it would be funny if he got hit in the crotch, and then he turns around and immediately gets hit in the crotch.
That's comedy right there.
Yeah.
That's comedy gold.
Well, and the best part was the Rube Goldberg aspect of it too, where it spun around and it pulled the trigger itself.
Yeah.
Mousetrap.
You can tell that Marv's thinking is a little bit messed up because the way he's going to put the most force behind pulling the string is putting his back to the wall and like pulling between his legs, which not a thing that people would do.
No. And that's how he got an old staple right up the Hershey Highway.
Gives you a good fulcrum.
Yeah. And then he got shot in the nose, and I think that made me cringe more than any of the first 2 injuries.
Well, and where it landed too, it looked like a piercing.
It did. It looked like a nice...
That'd be in today.
Yeah,
It
it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But then he foolishly pulled it out because it hurt.
And now, do you not recommend pulling that out because of the danger, or because you no longer have a badass staple piercing?
The latter.
Option B.
It's like for a lot of puncture injuries, you don't want to take it out, right? We've talked about that, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But this is not that type of injury. This is too small. You want to get that out.
It's like if you got stung by a bee, you want to flick that stinger out. Same kind of concept. It's superficial enough that it's going to cause more. It's going to eventually go deeper because you're going to push it or whatever.
Oh,
so
I thought
just
you
take
meant
it out.
you wanted to pull it out so you can put a ring in it.
It's like, well, I got these holes. Might
I
as well
mean,
put a
they're
ring
right
in it.
there. Yeah.
What was the next injury?
So the next injury we had was Harry trying to climb the ladder that was soaped up and landing flat on his back.
Yeah, this is sort of where there's some horrible, like it's then I start thinking about like the next worst thing other than the head injury directly, because you start to get a lot of these whiplash falls where somebody like falls down and then their head bounces off the ground. And I think
Contra
Coup contra coup.
Coup contra coup.
Coup contra coup. I think
Which
that
is
came up
just
for the
fun
first
to
time
say.
last Christmas.
I'm sure that it
It
did.
definitely
Probably the
did.
paint cans.
Yep, it actually was paint cans, 100%.
But the thing about this sequel is it's the same movie, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they don't really. Kevin
Could have just put this in Disney World and it would have been the same movie.
Well, and I think they call it out too. That like, oh, he did this to us last time.
Yeah.
Like they're just.
Is it? Don't
it's
you
a-
remember?
It's a sequel.
Yeah.
I think that's their antegrade and retrograde amnesia from all the head injuries.
Yes. But Harry and Marv both sustained like back injuries, like within a minute or two of each other, right?
Yeah, Marv has I think he falls through the floor and then lands
There's no floor there.
lands really awkwardly, and then like he starts moving his neck around.
And the captioning.
He starts moving his neck around, and so if you have a suspected spinal injury, like if somebody fell like that, the one thing that you do is make sure they don't move their neck. Like you forcibly hold their neck until you can get a C-collar on them. And because if there is a fracture there and somebody moves their neck, they could sever their spinal cord
Or the arteries.
or their arteries.
Yeah. So even when they're in a C-collar, we're still holding their neck. So they can't move at all. Just to remind them, don't move your neck. Also, you definitely don't want vertebrae crackles.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Because if you watch this movie on subtitles, that's actually what it says when Marv starts adjusting his back a little bit, is it says vertebrae crackles.
The next injury we have is a kind of a simple one, which is Harry walking in and there's just a bunch of metal like craftsman tools in a bag that fall on his noggin.
Oh, when he kicks down
Kinda
the
like
door
the
and it
brick.
falls it on there.
Yeah.
Again, like Courtney says, it's just like the brick.
Yeah, it's a recycled joke from earlier in the movie. It's very lazy. And also these things are
3.5 minutes earlier.
Right.
Literally.
and these are like, sharp, pointy objects falling on his head. Like this would hurt so much. If you've ever ducked underneath a table to pick something up and misjudged putting your head back up and just like lightly clipped the back of your head, that like acute, exquisite pain that from the back of your head is like, that's what some of the worst pain you could experience. And this guy has a bag of tools dropped on his head and he's like, owie.
And these are like back, when Craftsman was making really, really, really good tools.
Is this movie sponsored by Craftsman? Because there was a lot of Craftsman
I'm
stuff.
telling you, my dad had that toolbox.
This is not a how did this movie get sponsored podcast, but why did American Airlines sponsor a movie about a kid getting on the wrong frickin' plane and making it to
Didn't
New
think
York?
of that. That's funny.
American Airlines, we lose your kid.
I mean, that's when they could do no wrong. It didn't matter. Yeah, we'll lose your kid. We'll lose
9/11.
whatever. You got no other options. You got American, you got United. Deal with it.
You're right, because United is the hub of Chicago.
I don't know.
I know that only because of the United Center.
That makes sense.
That's the only reason why I know that United's hubbed in Chicago. I don't know why American Airlines would do that. Probably because it's the hottest movie from the year prior. So
Yeah.
you might as well hit your wagon.
Did it come out a year later?
It came out 2 years later, but they mentioned that it was only
I know that
it happened last year. But it came out in 92 and the first one came out in 1990.
Violence makes you age slower.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
So as they were kind of working their way through the house, because I think the next thing that happens is he gets his head set on fire.
Before that, we've
dance.
got Marv sliding into the paint cans.
Oh yeah.
Because remember, crotch injuries always funny.
Exactly. When there's a lull in the action, go for the crotch.
Go for the crotch.
Give that man the $10,000.
So Marv gets covered in paint and then decides to go wash that paint off.
Oh.
And Kevin has electrocuted the taps.
I did mention one thing that was I think this was not planned, was how red his eyes were. I really do think he got paint in his
How many
eyes.
takes do you think that was?
I don't know, but his eyes were so super, super red. So I really do think he got paint in his eyes, and he really did want to get to a sink to wash his eyes out because his eyes were
they looked really bad.
They looked real bad. Like they were really irritated.
And I think this next part is another confirmed kill for Kevin, because if something ever happens to you where you can see your skull on the outside of your body, you dead.
But you got what was the thing hooked up to? Was it just a car battery or?
It was like a generator.
Oh,
It was hooked up to an arc welder, and he was slowly turning up the power. I'm sorry, was anyone else watching this movie?
no.
This is the part where I literally wrote, if you were fighting Kevin, what things would you need in order to be successful?
Oh, do you have a list?
I have the two things I wrote down. Number 1, a helmet. Number 2, eye protection. There's so much stuff that gets into people's eye.
Right.
Because he gets hit with the
Basically-
concrete bag. That's so
So
costly.
basically, OSHA.
I was going to say COVID PPE.
Yeah. Well, I don't wear a helmet to work every day.
He wrote, if fighting Kevin, number 1, helmet. Number 2, eye protection.
I mean, that would have saved a lot of bad
Number
stuff.
3, common sense.
Gloves. No.
Just don't. They had the money.
Yeah. They also don't know how Polaroids work because they really wanted to get that camera.
We did.
Love
We
that
also had
part.
that discussion.
Yeah. Like, why do you want this camera back? He already has all the pictures.
And if he would have thrown them the camera, would they have just walked away? He still has all the evidence.
Yeah. Harry gets his head caught on fire was the next injury he had.
I liked that part.
He
Yeah,
could have just taken off his freaking hat.
Exactly.
Because his hat was the only thing on fire.
The top of it was the only thing. You had that nice thick band all the way around. You could have just grabbed it and taken it off.
Despite the fact that now we live in the times of COVID where a lot of people don't have a sense of smell, if you have enough stuff that's caustic enough to be lit on fire in an explosion, you're gonna have a smell. There's nothing that's like gasoline, you can smell that. If you had turpentine, you can smell that stuff. He's not gonna be in that room and not realize what's in that toilet bowl before he puts his head in
I
there.
think the one argument would be that whole house is under construction, so there might be a lot of smells.
Plus all the
And in
ammonia
the
from
moment.
from all the bird droppings.
But yeah, he dunks he does a very good handstand.
That's that prison
what I was
body.
saying.
It is-
That was
it is.
the reason that I thought that they spent their time in prison concentrating on the upper body was because he did an excellent handstand over that toilet.
Yeah, and then dunked his head in and it exploded.
Yeah, and that's not just Harry's dead. He's taken out the block, right?
Kevin's dead too.
Exactly.
I mean, it
And
depends.
there's no structural
Depends on
damage.
what's in there, but he's definitely dead. There's no getting away with that one.
Yeah.
We saw the flashes in every window.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And he was toilet bowl 0.
I'm surprised the windows didn't. It's pretty much rapid fire injuries from here on out. The ladder that got sawed, I should
Yep.
say, and then he takes a face plant. But then we go to the point where they learn from their mistakes.
I like that when in doubt in this movie, just have him fall one more floor down.
Yeah.
Like, that's an okay thing to always
Everyone
throw in.
takes an extra story fall the entire movie, or at least this whole kind of clip area. But then comes a scene where they walk up the stairs and they remember this is where paint cans come in.
Yeah. This
Which
is
is
when
just-
Kevin literally says, "Hey, why not take the stairs?"
Yeah,
Okay.
and this
Although
is
he
some lazy
doesn't
planning.
he doesn't use his tiger toy. It's the one time that he could have used the more authoritative voice, but he doesn't.
They would have known it was him. They're not dumb.
They got them all figured out.
So in that we've got the 2 missed paint cans, and then what do we even know what that big bar was?
It's like a big,
It's a big pipe.
Okay,
Big
just
heavy-
that big piece of cast iron pipe or whatever.
Yeah.
That caught them both. It caught them both in the chest, right, or did it catch them in the face?
I think it was a chest.
Oh no, it hit them in the face. That was a horrible, horrible injury. It hit them right in the face.
I mean, there was a lot of face trauma in this movie, so it's just part of it. But it hit him in the face. They follow a story because that's what you do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
why?
was
It wouldn't be
heavy.
enough to just get hit in the face.
And then he cuts the rope, and the pipe rolls down the stairs.
That's when it hits him in the chest.
I thought it was a crotch.
Oh, I don't know.
Somewhere in the
Maybe it was
torso.
a
Always
crotch.
I was
funny.
making that ooh noise, so
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it.
And then they get up, and then I blacked out a little bit because there was so many more injuries. The craftsman's chest, I think, was one.
Yeah, that was the next one, which I wrote. So they get crushed by this huge thing of tools, which, you know what? There weren't any tools in there. They've already been dumped on somebody's head. But that's a pretty heavy case. It's really just an excuse to use a nose prosthesis. But there's a type of injury that happens when you get a crush injury, when you get a really bad crush injury, and you're like, if your leg gets run over by a car, or if something gets like slammed in a big heavy door or something falls on it, but I could not remember what it's called. And then we started recording. Compartment syndrome. Bam.
The 5 Ps.
What?
Pain,
Compartment
pallor,
syndrome.
paresthesia,
Oh, see?
pulselessness.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot the 5th.
So it's a very specific.
Poiklio.
It's
Oh,
a very
poiklio
specific
thermogenesis.
type of secondary injury that comes from having a crush type injury. And granted, they were not crushed enough to have that type of injury,
that
but that's
has
what
to
it
be-
made me think of.
And that has to be in areas with compartments. Yeah.
This came up in the last Home Alone episode.
Of course,
Of course it did.
It's the same movie.
God, are we
I
talking about
think
the other
when we
one?
were talking about the crowbar in the chest.
How many times have we talked about
No, it wouldn't
you
have been
can't
that.
have it in the chest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
There's-
we have talked about this before.
In your arms and your legs, there's muscle groups, and those muscle groups are covered by like fibrous.
Fashion.
Fashion.
It's covered by fibrous tissue called fascia. And so if you get an injury to that, but the fascia doesn't break, then suddenly you have swelling in a thing that can't swell, and so then you get.
In that compartment.
Some might call it a compartment. So that's why it's called compartment syndrome. And I just that fired off in my brain as they were getting crushed to death by Coleman Tools or Craftsman Tools.
Yeah, if you
They probably didn't have 2 tool sponsors on this.
No, just Craftsman. Sears wanted that sweet money. Sears needed that money.
This was heyday of Sears.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's when you
Is-
put your Sunday's finest and go to Sears.
But there's a movie called Nothing But Trouble, and there's a very particular nose prosthetic that's in it, and I think they use the same nose prosthetic in this movie. And if you know it, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, that's okay too.
My research included reading all of the IMDb trivia, and I think that they said that most of the crew from Nothing But Trouble worked on this film.
No.
Oh,
no way.
Yeah.
No.
That
Yeah.
that
Wait,
was
so
one
where was there a nose prosthesis?
when they got crushed by the tools.
Uh-huh.
They like the whole reason why they get crushed is so they can look at the camera and you can see their noses are crooked.
Gotcha. Okay.
No way.
And I like Nothing But Trouble was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. It's not watchable. It's horrible. I don't understand. I must have watched it like 50 times. And I didn't look up the IMDb trivia. I just recognized the nose.
I can't believe you actually caught something like that.
I can't.
That is the dumbest thing possible.
You should see my drawing.
Oh no, I can see your drawings.
Okay, it wasn't Nothing But Trouble.
Oh, that would have made me very happy.
Yeah.
Way to crush his dream.
Well, go back
I
and look at the
know.
nose. I think that's worth it.
The nose.
It was only the lonely.
Maybe we'll have
at
someone
most.
from production contact us and say, actually, he's right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a nose like that, you don't throw it out. You get it in another movie somewhere, preferably one that's PG-13.
And reuse that nose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's our next to last injury. I do want to know how Kevin got so good with doorknobs and setting up that rope prop on the doorknobs there.
They even did that twice.
They did
used
that
2
twice.
doorknob tricks.
They did the whole movie twice.
But
Except it was
they
set in a
actually did it
different
3
place.
times because they did the movie twice in the second
But
movie.
We haven't done that podcast yet.
No. I
Oh,
mean, they did it twice in this movie.
The third movie. That's fair.
Oh, we're not
Um,
touching that. Well, who knows?
I'm not coming back for Home Alone 3.
The final injury for until the pigeons for Harry and Marv is climbing up the flaming rope, and this is where I said again they were climbing a rope unassisted rather than using their feet, just using their upper bodies, and
That was that prison
that's
workout.
impressive. Good on you guys.
They can't even do that on American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, I remember when I could do that when I was in gymnastics. So that was the last time I could do that.
Also, wouldn't kerosene make it slippery?
Not if your burning flesh is stuck to the rope.
A little traction.
Ah, it's so much easier to climb now that my skin's fused to this rope.
I wish I could let it go.
In so many ways.
I will say that the time I cringed the most was when the paint and varnish was falling on them, because it was like getting in their mouth, in their eyes.
Yeah.
And it looked more viscous than just like prop water.
Right.
And if you've ever like dropped a paint can on your foot or something, it's like, those are heavy. That's not even
That's a
even
lot
an
of paint.
empty paint can has a little bit of heft to it.
That's a lot of pain.
That's a lot of paint. But I did learn that birds love varnish. They were all about covering them up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I just realized they became the sticky bandits at the end because it all stuck on them.
Man, that is craftsmanship.
I wish you could see my face because I'm literally excited.
He's like a face of wonder right now. Whimsy and wonder that he just finally connected the dots on why they're the sticky.
It's good, right? That's good, right?
Be here for this.
Oh my god.
Did Kevin get a concussion
At what point?
when he fell on the ice?
Maybe.
He's bouncy.
Kids are more resilient. All their sutures haven't necessarily fused yet. I don't know the age. I should ask the people that are pediatricians that kind
At
of
that age,
sutures
they
have
should be
fused.
fused.
Okay.
His fontanelle has long closed.
Okay. Yeah. So don't listen to me about that.
Would pigeons eat varnished, tainted
Yes.
seed?
Yes.
Pigeons are flying rats. They will eat anything.
So those pigeons are dead too. So Kevin is
No,
murdered
not
those
necessarily. Those pigeons can survive it. Have you ever looked at a pigeon? Have you ever seen them crawling with disease and mites and all types of stuff, and they're still just
Aw.
like,
I've never seen them crawl with
I'm a pigeon.
disease. I see them fly with disease.
I've seen them crawl. No legs, just going beak.
Slugging around.
Did this one get like a approval, no animals were harmed things like at the end of the film? Because they smacked a lot of pigeons.
They did.
I was not paying attention to that.
I wasn't either.
Well, they trained the pigeons for that from birth, so
Did they have those in 1990?
I'm not sure if they had the "do not harm animals" clip at the end.
Yeah, we didn't make it through the credits for this one.
No, the Santa Claus 2 started playing, or Santa Claus 1 started playing.
Oh, so wait, you didn't see the end of credit scene where Kevin gets the Infinity Gauntlet?
I can't believe how long I went along with that.
Yeah, I was really enthralled until you said Infinity Gauntlet. You son
I
of
knew
a-
you were joking, Johnny.
No, you didn't. But is there any other? Are there any other injuries or anything else from this movie?
The one thing that I did think about was because of all the caustic material that is either ingested or splashed into people's eyes, I looked up the poison control number, which is 800-222-1222. It's worth knowing. It's the same thing everywhere. Because if bad stuff happens, you may not be able to look it up.
At first, when I looked at your paper, I thought that was the Plaza Hotel's number.
Let's all prank them.
Have you guys ever called the poison control number?
Yes, pretty much on every day at work.
I did a presentation for the poison control people in Chicago. It's a bunch of super smart guys sitting around pontificating about the best ways to treat horrible, purposeful, and accidental injuries. And it was some of the most interesting stuff that I learned in medical school.
I will kind of pop your bubble a little bit because during fellowship, I had to work at the Poison Control Center.
Yeah, but you weren't in Chicago.
Touche. But the calls that you would get were amazing too. Like, he ate rat poop from the toaster. Should we go to the hospital? And it's just random things that they would eat. But the number of ER visits that they save is astounding. And it was really developed for kids because kids are the ones who
Eat rat poop from the toaster.
Correct.
Yeah, I learned not to do that when I was a kid because of a couple things that happened when I was a kid.
You're like, that's not chocolate. It does not taste like chocolate.
Looks like chocolate.
But that rotation was basically just story time. It's them, telling their interesting calls that they got and then explaining what they did and what the outcome was. Because if you get something as specific as my kid ate rat poop from the toaster, there might be other things involved there. And so not everything goes perfectly every time. And so it's a lot of them just kind of sharing these war stories so that they have different treatment options.
Yep.
And it was
They're
also
on the other end Googling everything when you call.
I would be.
Me too.
They do have like a database that they can type into, and it'll tell them like half-life of the drug, antidotes, whether or not, how long you need to observe the patient, do they need to go to the hospital or anything like that. So it's actually really detailed, and a lot of times it's manned by pharmacists because they know their drugs.
It was also across the street from the Sears Tower, and so that was kind of fun to visit after my rotation.
Oh,
I'm just,
Chicago.
thinking of what happens if you're at poison control and you Google something and it tells you to call poison
Please call poison control. Oh no.
I'm sure that happens a lot.
I think it was called like Medicall or Toxcall, I believe is what they used. Something like that. But that would be such a frightening thing to, like, you're working at the Poison Control Center, you look it up, like, call Poison Control Center. That's me.
immediately.
Very often, I look things up and they say, consult your medical professional. I'm like, damn.
This is not what I looked for. I know, we use it more. I mean, I use Up to Date a lot. That's what keeps me up to
Is
date.
up to date like a specific medical
It's like
portal?
it's like a quick, how do I say it? Like a reference guide.
it's a clinically based advice guide for doing things, but it's not peer reviewed, which is a thing I didn't know. But I also use it all the time because it's really convenient.
It's better than Wikipedia.
So it's better than Wikipedia, but worse than like Dear Abby.
No, it's better than Dear Abby.
It's not as good as like looking up peer reviewed stuff on like PubMed.
I think one of the problems, I have been criticized for it, and it's like, well, in a real situation, I don't have time to read the study of what happened. I need some clinical advice about what to do. I think it's the difference between sort of academic medicine and actually having like, oh, I got 4 patients roomed. I just need some actual answers right now. In academic medicine, there's a lot of sitting around and going, well, actually.
Pontificating.
A lot of pontificating, yeah. But you don't have time for that.
You have to push your glasses up when you say it. Well,
Whenever you say pontificating.
Exactly. But I think we hit all the big points of this movie. I don't have anything else.
I think you can cut that down to about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a little bit. Hopefully, cut it down to 24. In
honor of the show.
1 minute per minute of injury. But before we wrap things up, I do have a couple important questions. The human centipede bills itself as 100% medically accurate. If that's the case, how medically accurate is Home Alone 2 Lost in New York? I'll open it up to the floor rather than calling on
So
someone.
I'll go first this time because normally I am very positive and I give high numbers, and I'm going low this time. I'm going to say 23% accurate.
Yeah, this is less accurate than the human centipede.
Way
by
less
far.
accurate than the human centipede.
I think what I'm learning is that I need to see consequence of injury. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. I mean, I would go lower than 23%.
Remember, Lucy was 10 or 0?
Lucy was 10. Crank was upgraded by Greg to a 1. Crank 2.
I may throw your numbers off then because I don't think I was here for either of them.
Wait, I gave Crank a 1? Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You gave Crank 2 a 1 after much internal deliberation.
I love the movie, though. It doesn't make it a bad movie. Just don't get your medicine from it. I'll say 15%. There's too much head injury and too much recovery.
I think that's fair. I would probably go 30.
Just to be difficult.
Yeah.
You guys need
to give an average of 23%.
Perfect.
Exactly.
It's true.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Before we get into the, how would we make it more medically accurate, while keeping the stakes high and everything like that, how much would your percentages change if Harry and Marv had been wearing helmets?
That's a fantastic question.
If they came in prepared for all of his stunts and just kind of took glancing damage.
What did you say they needed? Helmets and
helmets and eye protection.
Yeah, helmets, eye protection, and knee pads.
That's a really hard question. Our brains are hurting right now. How's it going to affect the score?
Yeah, would it be more medically accurate if they'd been wearing helmets?
No, that would. You know what? I would be much more willing to accept their ability to walk away from some of those injuries. Like, I mean, that's what a helmet's for, to protect your head from blows to the head.
And all the splash damage would be protected by the goggles.
Yep.
But then would the movie be funny?
I mean, they'd still be sticky bandits.
Is Double Dare funny?
Yes.
Yeah, so this movie would still be funny.
Okay. Wipeout is funny too.
Wipeout is funny.
Yeah, but they don't wear goggles.
The goggles do nothing.
They only have helmets and knee pads. So I don't know. I don't know if it would expect.
I mean, I would respect them more as criminals if they're like, hey, this kid beat the crap out of us. We're at least going to go in prepared, right? And then they can take, then I would give them the pipe to the face because it would be the only thing that actually hit him in the face, as opposed to 8 bricks in a row plus, whiplash and all the other nonsense.
Numerous concussions.
They would be real concussed.
Yeah. I don't think it would affect my score.
I think my score would go up.
A lot?
If nothing else changed, but like somebody CGI'd in helmets, eye protect, somebody CGI'd them into Double Dare costumes. I mean,
my medical score would go up, but I think it's inversely proportional to humor. And so my funniness score would go down. And funniness is a word.
But it would, how could it affect the humor? There's no consequence to any of it. So they might as well at least be protected.
It's protect them for another movie. Make sure they're healthy enough to come back.
They couldn't come back.
They did. They decided we're not coming back. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Were they in Home Alone 3?
No.
We don't know because none of us saw it.
No, it's new everything. It's a team of 3 because everything's got to be a little bit more. The kid's cuter, and there's one more criminal.
So you have seen it.
I know of it.
He still has the posters.
Yeah.
I believe the main thing in that was his ability to control an RC car with a camera on it, which gives him information he would not otherwise have. And it's just one of those things where like this doesn't exist. So like now it's easy, but back then when you had like a tape camcorder on it,
the Mario Kart.
That's true. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now it's nothing.
Yeah, that's what you get for Christmas. Mario Kart.
But when your RC car only runs for 10 minutes on a full charge and you have a camcorder attached to it,
it's not going to go fast. It's going to putz along. Yeah.
And those things are loud too. You can't really sneak around the house.
No, you can't.
Is there anything you would do to make the film more medically accurate while keeping both the dramatic? Are there dramatic stakes in this film? No. While keeping the
yeah, there are. There's lives.
So here's how you make it more accurate. Kevin's family trip is canceled because the pianist dies in the first scene, and they have to go to the funeral.
Ouch.
If only she was wearing a helmet.
There you go. Helmet would have been better.
Yeah, she would have been better off.
Helmets.
If
for
the piano
everyone.
player had been wearing a helmet, everyone would have survived.
Well, she would have.
She would have. The rest of Kevin's classmates would have died. But
Yeah.
The homeless lady would have died from.
But she
an
would have
inhaled
been there to
bird
play the
flu
organ at the funeral.
What?
Yes,
She would have been there to play the organ at the funeral.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah. But I got no way to make this movie more medically accurate while fixing or keeping the stakes the same way. It's Home Alone 1, but in New York. If only it was set in Walt Disney World.
And
As
he's
it
not
originally
he's
set.
not really lost in New York either.
Yeah, he does pretty much know where he is the entire time.
You're right. I can't use that joke now with every single sequel.
Yeah, it's just Home Alone 2 in New York.
In New York. Yeah,
He's lost to his family.
No, he's not. He's
located
happy.
in New York.
He's literally like,
No,
wait a
his
minute.
family don't know
My
where he
family's
is.
in Florida. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, he really does not care. He is a terrible child. I think that's the moral of the story. But I got nothing else.
Wrapping it up nicely.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, and thanks everyone for listening. And happy holidays, everyone. We'll be back next week. This is probably going to come out Christmas week, so we'll be back the week after with some non-ho-ho-ho-sember material.
I can't. I mean, I like it.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.